MG Motor could soon become Indian as Indian companies are eyeing a major stake in the business. Car makers like Mahindra and Mahindra, Hinduja, promoter of Ashok Leyland, Reliance to JSW Group have now reportedly shown interest in buying a majority stake in MG Motor India. Now, reports suggest that Sajjan Jindal, who is the chairman of JSW Group, aims to buy a 45 to 48% stake in the company, with some additional percentages, of course, going to dealers and Indian employees. The Indian arm of MG is currently and fully owned by SAIC Motor, a Shanghai-based company, and actively looking to partner with and is on offer. What is on offer is the majority stake in MG Motors India. All of that will be covered in this discussion. Joining me at this point in time in the studio, my colleague Krishnakumar, also with me Kartik, Malhotra. Sumantra Bibhuti Barooah, who's a consulting editor at ET Auto, I'm given to understand, has also joined us. But let me quickly throw open this discussion to first you, Krishna. We have been discussing MG Motors' bid to eye an Indian partner for a majority of the stake. For the benefit of viewers at this point, why is MG Motor looking to sell out a majority stake?
To start with, they are a company that is owned by the largest auto company in China, and that is clearly problematic when they want to operate in India. Of late, we've seen Chinese apps, everything from Chinese apps to so many other Chinese related products and services getting banned in India simply because they are owned and operated by Chinese, and we have national security concerns and issues related to any business that operates in India that is owned by a company in China. So MG Motors as a brand, launched in India. At the end of the day, it was originally a British brand called Morrison Garage, which eventually got bought over by SAIC, the biggest auto company in China. It's a legacy brand, has a cult following, so to speak, and has been able to stay in the Indian market with premium SUVs, which are priced with a good 50 to 20% delta as compared to similar cars in their own segments, and offering a premium look and feel from both inside and outside. So as a brand, it has the market to work in India because there is enough and more people who are able to afford Morrison MG cars in India. So if it needs to continue here in India, it needs to not be a Chinese company. Anything but a Chinese company. It can even tom-top the fact that it's originally a British company, but definitely not, at least the face of it, be a Chinese company, and that's where the crux of the problem is.
All right. So to overcome that, there is essentially a bid to find an Indian partner which can hold a majority of the stake, as we discussed, anything to the tune of 45% to 48%. Yeah. And many players are in bid to get that stake. We discussed this story I remember a couple of days ago, and we talked about how Mahindra and Mahindra, JSW Group, all of those could be buying. But now we know, and there are some reports around this, I don't know how much of it is confirmed, but JSW could be looking at a majority stake.
So JSW was incidentally reported by ET, and there has been no official word yet from MG Motor. So I would say right now, until confirmed, it is source driven and it is in the realm of speculation, if I may.
Okay.
And so is the case with Hinduja and M&M also eyeing stake. Now, I think the interesting trend I'm seeing here is that you have a non-auto player like JSW getting full-fledgedly, or if reports are to be believed, to eventually get full-fledgedly into the auto business is something fairly interesting. That is something that I think it just shows that with electric vehicles making inroads into the world, not just India, the playing field is getting leveled in a sense that that the technology is new and everybody wants to partake in that tech and in that industry immediately, because it does seem to have high potential if we were to go with Niti Aayog's projections of 30% of our fleet, the four-wheeler fleet across the country, to become fully electric by 2030. That's a short 7-year runway. And within that, if we are looking at those numbers to be achieved, then it's definitely a good window of opportunity for a lot of auto as well as non-auto players to step in. And that is where I think JSW fits in beautifully, because backward integration would not be a problem given that it is largely a steel conglomerate. So it'll be able to derive a lot of efficiencies of scale and economies of scale and that is something that is going to hold MG Motor in good stead.
Okay.
Now, of course, Krishna talked about the fact that it was originally MG was a British brand, and Morris Garages also takes memories or brings back memories of a car my dad used to drive, the Hindustan 14,
Right.
which was originally a Morris Oxford. So Morris cars, Morris Minor, Morris Oxford, the ambassador of Hindustan Motors also modeled on Morris. And incidentally, if I remember right, when MG started advertising in India, it used a British actor as well. So I think it tried to make that impression very clear that, hey, we are a British company,
we're not
a
Chinese.
Chinese company, but hey, you are a Chinese company, and it is going to be difficult for you to do business in India, and hence look for a partner who can legally and socially be okay doing business in India.
Okay, but it's also a very clear signal, Kartik, that if you're a Chinese company, it's going to be tough for you. And I'm not a jingoistic, so I want to understand on the basis of merit of doing business in this country. Are we clearly sending out a message to China at this point in time, you're not welcome?
Absolutely, 100%. And all this started.
And this is not even subtle.
Incidentally, no, and it should not be. It all started in 2020 when we had the Galwan clashes, and we said we cannot entertain a situation where there is a conflict between our soldiers on the border, and we promote your goods and services here in our country. And that led to 60, 65 odd apps being banned in the first tranche, followed by another 30, 40 odd apps in the second tranche. And overall, this whole hype around Make in India and the fact that we are going to say no to Chinese products, I think it's all stemming out from there. And that, incidentally, if we continue with the auto sector story and if we continue with electric vehicles, is also the reason why we don't want to entertain a Tesla selling its cars in India while it manufactures in China. So I think we are very clear, and we mince no words in stating very, very clearly that if you are a Chinese company and if you want to derive profit from India, sorry, you're not welcome as long as our border issues are not resolved.
Okay. And someone who understands MG's portfolio, for someone who wants to know what's on offer, if you are to buy a majority stake, what all does MG has to offer? What all does Morris Garage has to offer to an Indian partner?
Right. Right now, and what MG has to offer is sort of like what the iPhones are to the smartphones. The MG cars seem to be for the budget SUV segment. What MG offers is like a premium to that. If you're not interested in the Tata Nexons and the Maruti Brezzas of the world, you should be looking at an MG Hector. Yes, the price points are higher, but what it does offer is a brand that can cater to the HNI population of India, to the people, to the upper middle class of India, and that's a very specific branding to have. And hence, you're talking about a high margin business. So in the sense that in that sense, it's a good business to have as part of your portfolio, where you're able to attract a certain clientele that's very, very sophisticated. That's that's socioeconomically speaking, right in the top of the pyramid. And it has limited offerings at this point in time. What it does have is great history, a cult following, and a couple of brands which are able to target certain sections of the Indian upper middle class and in the Indian rich. So that's what is on offer as far as anybody who's picking up MG Motor India is concerned.
And reports are also suggesting at this point in time, because all of this is in the realm of speculation, nothing is confirmed, that Mahindra could also be tying up with Hinduja. So there's a bid from Mahindra's side as well, and rightly so, Kartik.
That would make eminent sense to me. In fact, if I were to speculate, and that's what I'm going to do right now. If I were to speculate,
that's what we're all doing, Kartik.
If I were to speculate, my speculation would suggest that it has to be either Mahindra or Maruti Suzuki to make a bid. Now, Maruti Suzuki historically has not been very aggressive in buying other companies out, but in the case of Mahindra, given the fact that a lot of, in fact, I would say almost all of its fleet is diesel only, and the fact that diesel cars are being frowned upon, being done away with, and have a shorter gestation period, shorter life on Indian roads, especially in the metros and cities like Delhi NCR, where there's a ban on diesel cars beyond 10 years, the market for diesel becomes less and less lucrative, and what shines out in comparison is this immense push towards electrification of the Indian four-wheelers. So I think it is a great fit for Mahindra. Mahindra, incidentally, has also made acquisitions in the electric space in the past. So Mahindra Reva Reva was a company founded by Chetan Maini, and that was incidentally India's first and only small electric car, which was bought over by Mahindra and Mahindra and continued to be sold under the brand Mahindra E2O. And similarly,
There are a couple of them on the road.
and there's one more. I think it's some 400, or it's not the XUV 300 or the XUV 500. There's a 400 version, which is also an electric vehicle that Mahindra has to offer.
And were they to pick up MG Motor, they'll also get the MG Comet, which
Correct.
is
That
their,
is
you know,
correct.
which
The
is their
Comet, which is
EV
an
offering,
EV. Right.
offering, box-sized car, very odd-looking car. Some say it's very ugly. Some say it's, you know, it's just a futuristic-looking car. It's one of those cars that
Small
you
and
see in one of
compact.
those movies, you know, Total Recall, you know, the kind of movies, you know, with talk about 50 years from now kind of a car, and you know, a great ad campaign talking about, and if you really see it's about the environment, you better start driving electric vehicles, kind of an ad. Campaign as well. So it does have the MG in India has the Hector, which is the mid-size SUV, which it debuted with. It's the most successful car in the Indian market. There is the Hector Plus, there is the Gloucester, and then there is the Comet. So
Aster as well, I think.
And
is
the
the
Aster
Aster,
as
yeah.
well.
and the Aster,
Newly
sorry, I left that out.
launched
So,
Aster.
so what a 6 to 7 car portfolio, all of them doing something different in their segments.
Yeah,
That's what this MG Motors has to offer.
The bid essentially is to tap in, like to get a larger chunk of the SUV pie, because there's nothing by the way of a sedan or a small compact car. So the bid essentially would be, and I'm not sure if you can perhaps also apprise us at this point in time, Krishna, what's the market share in the SUV segment for MG?
The SUV segment, for the last couple of years, you know, you've seen new entrants like Kia Motors making a huge mark. You know, Kia has been in the market for a very long time with the Seltos. But with the Kia Sonet about a couple of years ago, it was the most sold car for the year. It was the car to be gifted for during Diwali. So, you know, you have, that's the kind of market that you exist right now. It's a new, it's like the IPL. You can be Gujarat Titans entering the market 2 years ago and like totally take it by storm, because, you know, SUVs are the name of the game, and it's all about fresher, newer innovation. Having said that, Maruti continues to lead in SUV sales. If you remember, for the month of May, when you took the auto sales numbers, Maruti's Brezza, Grand Vitara, all of them did really well. They continue to do really well. So Maruti does really well. You have the Hyundai, and then you have a couple of other brands. Maruti, Hyundai, and the new entrants like Kia will sort of tell you. But the problem is that you have a car like Tata Nexon, which has gone on to become the most successful car in the Tata stable. So, you know, it is IPL. You're going to have Chennai Super Kings one year, you're going to have Gujarat Titans one year, you're going to have, another completely different team altogether. So the SUV market is a fast-changing, dynamic market with a few people who've been able to put out really successful cars, which have remained successful for a good, say, 2 to 3 years, 4 years space, and improve better. Wherein MG's name doesn't really pop up, because that's really not about, it's not really in the numbers game. You know, you're talking about a clearly premiumized product and a clearly premium in terms of money as well. If you're looking for the bang for the buck, I don't think you're buying MG cars. You're buying MG cars because you want to make everybody else look like they're buying for bang for the buck, and I'm doing better.
And since you mentioned IPL and Gujarat Titans, incidentally, MG has just made a bid to invest in a plant in Gujarat for 700 crore rupees. So it clearly tells us that the brand is investing in India and wants to maintain a foothold in India and only expand going forward.
And given that there is a trend that Indians are likely to buy more and more SUVs, it makes all the more sense, because this is
which is
growing
where I
market.
see the Mahindra connection coming in. So
Right.
one was to decommission its diesel fleet and yet maintain leadership in the SUV space. So it seems like a perfect marriage. And B, of course, you're also getting with it the technology of electric vehicles, which is going to take you years to develop, or it's going to be really expensive to buy. So in either scenario with Mahindra and Mahindra, it seems like a perfect bet, but again, only in the realm of speculation. And I think the second speculation that I may want to add is Maruti Suzuki. Laggards in
SUV.
electric vehicles and late entrants in SUVs. This deal is going to give them a solid fillip, but the caveat being the brand ethos and the pricing of MG does not sit well with Maruti.
Does not sit well as an understatement. It's the polar opposite of Maruti. Maruti is all about kitni deti hai. This is the opposite of kitni deti hai.
This is kitni achhi lagti hai, essentially. Sumantra is joining us at this point in time. Sumantra, appreciate you taking time out, and congratulations for breaking that story. We're discussing whether JSW Group is going to be eyeing a stake in MG Motors or not? Of course, that is a speculative story from ET's stable at this point in time. I want to understand from you, which are the big players? We're discussing Mahindra and Mahindra, we're discussing JSW Group, a couple of other players, of course, which have shown some sort of interest. Which, according to you, stands out?
Well, first of all, thanks for this opportunity. And yes, I accept your congratulations on behalf of my colleagues. This story was done by the Economic Times newspaper, and my colleagues there did a great job of breaking the story. And yes, we have been following up on that. And as you rightly said, JSW, see, nothing is final until it's signed and sealed. So as of now, JSW is seen as the front runner. The right term would be the front runner, and it looks like the JSW group will pick up a stake of close to 50%. But at the same time, there's also reports that Mahindra Mahindra and the Mahindra Group, which is the owner of Ashok Leyland, are also in the fray. And earlier, there was also information that Reliance Industries, which is also, as you may be aware, is focusing, has created a new mobility division, which is focusing on new energy, basically, not primarily on vehicles. But it won't be surprising if they get into the vehicle space also. So, and prior to that, there was a report about Hero also being interested. But yes, what is happening net, a lot of interest being generated by this, by the decision of SAIC to offload part stake in MG Motor in India. Motor, as we all know, doesn't quite qualify to be a significant player yet in the Indian market, but as a brand, it's growing, and it is in the emerging electric vehicle space. It is making good kind of progress now, as we recently saw the kind of launch of the MG Comet. And what is important in this aspect is when it comes to EVs, we all know China is in a way the superpower in terms of the scale. Yes, there is a Tesla in North America, but when it comes to scale and the volume, it is China. And SAIC is the largest player there as a passenger vehicle maker. So a lot of might there. There is the likes of SAIC, BYD. These are Chinese giants. And when it comes to the EV space, they can do a lot of things. So therefore, because electrification is seen as the future in the mobility industry, that is also perhaps driving a lot of this interest from these conglomerates who would, I'm sure, would like to have a kind of place in the automobile stroke mobility industry.
Right. Sumo, Krishna over here. I'm also being joined by Kartik Malhotra as well. Just wanted to, from my end, I wanted to ask you, you need steel to make cars. But does a steel company really need a car company is my curiosity over here. Kartik also has a question for you.
And my question being, Sumantra, do you see this trend of electric vehicles really leveling the playing field where you no longer need to be, an existing auto player, and yet because the technology is new, non-auto focused companies are also thinking that, hey, it's a level playing field for us to enter into as well?
Thanks, and that's a very valid and interesting perspective that you have brought in, two things. Electric vehicle industry, the entry barrier is significantly lower than the entry barrier to the conventional ICE vehicle industry, which is internal combustion engine vehicle industry. So that is why you are witnessing a lot of players in the EV space who you may not have heard their names, especially in the 2 and 3-wheeler space. So yes, because the entry barrier is relatively lower. Therefore, you see a lot of new entrants. But having said that, perhaps in some cases, perhaps the electric vehicle industry, because of these discussions like, there are 2,000 parts in an ICE vehicle, only 20 parts. Perhaps that's oversimplifying the case. No, electric vehicles are also technologically quite intensive, and in some cases, perhaps in some areas, more intensive, more complex than the conventional vehicles. So therefore, at some point, well, that's a different topic of discussion, especially in the 2-wheeler space, there may be some kind of consolidation and things like that. But coming to your point about the technology part, technology, as we all know, can be bought. So in this case, if I am someone who has a lot of kind of disposable cash or new business opportunities, and what better this thing than opportunity than I mean, very few kind of sectors will offer me an opportunity like the electric vehicle, emerging electric vehicle sector. And when it comes to this particular case, SAIC, BYD, these are companies who have done a lot of work in the EV space, and they have a lot of technological capabilities. So that makes it a good kind of enough kind of reason for someone who's looking for new opportunities to kind of try their luck or try and get into this business.
And talk to us about Krishna's point on backward integration reversed, forward integration. I mean, in the case of Tata Motors, we've seen that that the backward integration supply chain worked very well, given the fact that they had an auto company as well as a steel company, and it got backwardly integrated. But in this case, we are looking about JSW's forward integration, perhaps with a steel company diversifying into auto.
Yes, there is a business case there as well. So I mean, let's say in the hypothetical, I mean, if you look at the hypothesis of this thing working out, then you have a kind of a captive customer of sorts for JSW to supply its automotive grade steel also.
So Sumantra, why don't you think Maruti Suzuki is in the fray? It doesn't have a very robust SUV lineup of cars. And it's also a late entrant, if not a laggard, into the electric vehicle space. So why is Maruti Suzuki not in the fray?
Yeah, makes for a more logical, natural fit than JSW Steel.
Well, that would be from a conventional wisdom perspective, yes. But now, having said that, Maruti Suzuki, yes, it's a kind of the state of the party. But with someone, with a player like Maruti Suzuki, they come with their scale is the name of the game, and when they come, they do a fairly good job of it. And as you may be aware that they have made an announcement that by 2025 they will have their first EVs, and they will have a portfolio of 6 EVs. They are planning for a portfolio of 6 EVs. So even let's say, even if you look at as of date, even the market leader in the emerging passenger electric vehicle space, Tata Motors has a Nexon and a Tigor and a Tiago. A Tiago and Nexon more for personal application. Tigor perhaps Tigor also for personal application, but there's also one for a fleet. So even if you look at that, all combined 3 models. So, but Maruti is talking about a portfolio of 6 models, and they are yet to be present in the market. As of date, they are not there. But come 2025, perhaps then you will see a different aspect of Maruti's business, which all of us are looking forward to. I'm sure it will be quite interesting, and as they always play on the affordability and volume cards, perhaps yes, you may not get a Maruti electric vehicle for about 5-6 lakh rupees, but pretty much one can place a bet that they will definitely start with somewhere, perhaps it won't be surprised if they come up with the most affordable electric car in India. So yes, that's why I think they have their own plans, and they also announced the R&D kind of setup to be which is taking shape in Gujarat. So a lot of work happening internally. So perhaps that's why they don't want to kind of it's not attracting them to have a part stake in another company.
Mm-hmm. So we're of course waiting and watching, keeping an eye on all those speculative piece of information, news items that are coming in as to who's going to get the larger pie of stakes in MG Motors. And while we are on auto, there's breaking news coming in, and perhaps Sumantra, if you can be with us, bear with us. Quickly, we are given to understand Ministry of Corporate Affairs has now ordered an investigation to assess Hero MotoCorp's relationship with a third-party vendor. This is a Reuters breaking news. There are allegations on Hero Hero MotoCorp of diversion of funds. Two government sources have independently told Reuters the investigation has been ordered in the public interest to probe ownership structure of Hero MotoCorp. Sumantra, any information, idea on what the investigation is all about? We are given to understand Hero MotoCorp and its management is currently under investigation.
Yes, this is a breaking news, and as of now, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm not being able to add more value to it. But this is a breaking news, as you mentioned, by Reuters. So perhaps at this stage, I will not be able to comment on that.
That's all right, Sumantra. Thanks very much for joining with your inputs on that very, very important story. We are, of course, also tracking, as I said, it's an important piece of information. We only have some very preliminary information coming in, and that is Hero MotoCorp, which is one of the largest two-wheeler dealer vendor in India, is being investigated for a relationship with a third-party vendor in a case related to diversion of funds. The investigation has been ordered by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. In fact, Hero has now responded to Reuters saying that they have not received any communication from the government and they were not able to comment on the matter. We will try and get you more information as and when it comes through. But shifting focus.
Hero MotoCorp stock is down incidentally 3.55%, and it's just gone down. It was trading at about at 2:50 p.m. It was trading at about 2,900, and it has fallen 3.5% to about 2,931 right now, down about 100 rupees on the market.
Okay.
So I think market is also picking up this piece of news.
Market's
and
picking up.
we are very close to market closing. So let's see how the stock opens tomorrow morning.
So the market is down almost 3%. Hero is down almost 3%.
Hero MotoCorp 3.5%, 3.46% right now.
There's been an impact on the stock, and market, of course, keeping a close watch on how the news pans out. Remember, Hero has not responded to the allegations. We'll bring you all the details as and when they come up with their side of the statement.